obviously Apple had a lot of time to think about what they wanted to do. They got $100 billion. That's a lot of money. A lot of people were saying, could we see an acquisition of a company, you know, one of their fallen rivals? Would they do a stock split? Those are two of the main things that people were sort of expecting, or not expecting, but I think
thinking about it, mulling over, hoping for it.
I think in the first case, Apple shareholders, by and large, didn't want to see an acquisition because Apple's culture is seen as pretty unique, having to absorb another company.
Who are you going to buy? I mean, what holes do you have that you need to buy another company?
There are acquisitions that to be very tiny, very strategic, and very focused.
But not some big, splashy acquisition of a company we may have heard of, like, I don't know, Research in Motion or something like that. So I think you got a bit of a sigh of relief from investors on that front. On the flip side, I think there were a lot of investors who were hoping, praying for a stock split. A 10-to-1 split was what most people were saying, in order to bring the $600 share price down to about something like $60. It's something that a lot of ordinary people can actually buy more than like 5 of.
And it's funny, they brought down the prices of their products, but not necessarily the stock. But Tim Cook said on the conference call that they looked into it.
That's right.
But they didn't see a lot of support that it was actually beneficial to shareholders to do that.
Yeah, but that gets into this question of, are Apple shares worth $600? You see the stock this morning, you can pull up the stock chart, I think it's only up about 1%. So you can see, you know, around that $600 mark, but it hasn't really burst through there yet.
Yeah, it touched it very briefly last week.
Right. I mean, our Apple, look, the market, you know, you can always say, oh, the market, they're what the market says. Are Apple shares really worth $600?
Right, and that's the question.
That's the question.
When you do a buyback, what you're also saying is we like the stock price where it is, and we think it could go even higher. There were some commenters on our blog this morning and last night who were saying it would be irresponsible of Apple to initiate a buyback at this level because this price has gone up so much. It's up 50% since October. If they had started this in October, you know, they'd be buying it a whole lot cheaper.
But you know what? That's right. I mean, just a few months ago, it was at $350. But you know what's interesting?
Not $350.
$350. It was at $350 in October.
Yeah.
Oh, in October.
In October.
A few months ago. Yeah.
A few more than that. All right.
But if you look back to October 2010, when it was at $300, you know, basically the stock has doubled since then. If you look at their earnings for their current fiscal year, which ends in October, ends in September 30th, their earnings over that time is supposed to triple. So yes, the stock has doubled over the past 2 years, but their earnings have tripled. So if you're looking at the stock on a price to earnings valuation, as many people like to look at stocks, the price really isn't keeping up with their earnings growth.
Right. I just think, and you saw this with Google too. I mean, the stock shot up. It went to this crazy number. I don't know what the high was, 750 or something. I mean, something really, really big. And I just think when you start getting that high, regular investors, most investors, they back off. It doesn't matter if you say the PE ratio isn't crazy. At some point, they just back off. That stock number gets too high.
Right. And you know, if you can only afford 2 or 3 shares, you know, a lot of people don't like that. I know it's a purely psychological thing doing a stock split, but being able to hold 20 or 30 and being able to buy like 3 or 4 of them at 60 bucks, you know, it does bring in a little bit of an incremental buyer. So it's hard to say what forces are at work today in that 1.2% rise in Apple. Obviously, a lot of things at play. They also talked about iPad sales over the weekend. So, but you got to think all of this is working into the calculations here.